system responds lawfully to them in pretty nearly every case, and that's sort of a contradiction in reality that the IRS very much would like people to not be conscious of. But even as they assault me personally, they continue to make complete refunds to Americans across the country every week, and have been doing so for 5 years now, despite leveling assaults against me and efforts to suppress the book for all of those 5 years as well.
Well, it's kind of funny that, as the IRS is kind of perceived as, the militant giant of the United States government. People are more afraid of the IRS than nearly anything else in the world. And yet, as Pete has said, they turn out to be a dog with a loud bark and not much bite, as long as you're educated. If you're not educated, they're going to bite you.
Yeah.
So now I want to get back here, The core question, I suppose, it really is what it boils down to, is what is income?
Yeah, that is in fact the core question, and it's the thing that is the if somebody can get that one down cold, they're halfway to a complete understanding of the subject. And it takes a little bit of study to get that one down cold, but the important thing to start with is the understanding that income is a distinct and specialized class of receipts within the meaning of tax law. It doesn't mean all that comes in. That's what the common usage of the term is, of the word. That's the meaning of the effective definition of the common word income. But in the context of tax law, income is itself a specially defined term. As I said earlier, when we were talking about custom definitions, it isn't one that has its own written definition, but it's one that has evolved as a matter of statutory construction and ultimately became a fixed term when it went into the Constitution in the 16th Amendment. And that defined meaning is the benefit of exercising a federal privilege, prerogative, or property measured by the dollars produced from that exercise. That's a kind of a mouthful, but the shorthand of it is that it is a specialized class of receipts that proceed from doing something profitable with federal property, with something that belongs to the Fed, something that they can demand a piece of the action for your use of. And just as you can demand a piece of the action if you let your neighbor set up a lemonade stand at the end of your driveway because it's the best spot in town, you can then take 10% of his profits as part of the agreement. That's part of the deal. If you want to use my driveway, I get the 10%. That's how it works. That's an excise. And the feds do the same thing, and that's what the income tax really amounts to. So understanding that income is that limited thing. It's not all that comes in. It's just a specialized portion or type variety of what can come in. Makes a world of difference in understanding the tax overall.
So why then do we need to file a tax return if we're not liable?
Well, because somebody has said that you were. That's actually the core reason. Everybody who pays somebody in this country, because of ignorance about this subject, broad ignorance, has been taught to create a legal document whenever they make a payment. And that legal document declares the payment to have been made as a consequence of a taxable activity. The people who create that document, they don't know that that's what it means, because that's one of those things that's left off the form. When they your average human resources department starts producing W-2s at the end of the year or at the beginning of a new year, they're filling out the form. They're writing down how much they paid people. They don't know that the fine print, which is not included on the W-2 forms they're filling out, it's actually in the law. That's one of those things that's 600,000 words away from the part that says, all people making payments to employees of wages, need to fill these forms out. 600,000 words away, it says, and what you're to report on these is not just what you paid them, but only what you paid them that qualifies under these various definitions. They don't know that, so they write this stuff down on these forms, and they sign the forms under penalties of perjury, and they send the forms to the IRS, and the IRS gets them and says, oh, so-and-so is reported here as having engaged in a taxable activity. Therefore, they, unless we learn something different, we're going to presume that they owe a tax. So that information has been said. That evidence, that testimony has been made about that person. Now, that person gets a copy of that form, too, and they don't get a copy so that they can just transfer the numbers onto their 1040. They get a copy to put them on notice that testimony has been made about them and what the testimony is.
Well, Pete, I think you're a true patriot. I think that your book brings the patriot out of any red-blooded American who actually takes the time to read it. America's in a tough spot right now, and it's my opinion that only a return to the founding principles can rescue this nation from the dark path that we are currently traveling down. I think you're an inspiration to true patriots. I really do. I just want to remind everybody, Pete is fighting the battle on our behalf. Don't let him fight it alone. Get in there at www.losthorizons.com and make a donation. Pete, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Dan. It was a pleasure.
Bye now.